Hi everybody, welcome to this Back to Basics short video on the strategic planning process. My name is Sean Purcell, and in terms of my background, to be able to talk to you about strategic planning, I've been talking to finance people about strategic planning and finance students for probably over 25 years. I've been involved in many of the training businesses in the UK over those years and was a founding shareholder of the organisation that is now Kaplan in the UK today. I'm also the current PQ 2020 Lecturer of the Year, and I've also been runner-up for that award on a couple of occasions. And the whole point of me talking to you today is to give you some simple, free advice so that you can deal with your examinations involving any strategic planning in as simple way as possible. I'm also the ACCA guru for the SBL exam, and much of what I'm going to say is applicable to that, but this could also apply to management and case study exams for both CIMA and ICAW. So I hope you found it of some use. So you can also, if you want to contact me, you can contact me via LinkedIn, and I'm going to get some stuff to help students who maybe are struggling a little bit in lockdown, all free, to maybe set a group and just give you some resources. So contact me on LinkedIn if you want any of that. So let's talk about strategic planning and the process that it involves. Essentially, there are three key steps that you need to understand, and those three key steps are: firstly, we need to undertake strategic analysis. Having undertaken our strategic analysis, we think about some strategic choice, and then once having made our strategic choice, we think about strategic implementation. And I just complete the arrow there because strategy is a continuous process. So what we need to be able to do is, when a question we face asks us something, we need to understand, is that question landing on the strategic analysis box? Is it landing on the strategic choice box? Or is it landing on the strategic implementation box? And with regards to each of those boxes, there are certain catalysts to get your brain thinking in a right way that you need to use. So let's look at each of these boxes in turn. On strategic analysis, there are again three steps. The first one being internal appraisal. So internal appraisal is about assessing our position. If you want some kind of framework to help you address your case study scenario, you might think about the value chain if it was talking about internal processes, but you also might talk about the EMS model, where we look at money, manpower, materials, machinery, markets, makeup, and so on. So that would be our internal appraisal. We then need to look at what's happening outside the organization using an external appraisal, and typical catalysts here would be things such as five forces, which helps us understand competitors. So understand the dynamic of the five forces model. Is there a threat from new entrants? And if there is, barriers to entry, what are they like? What's the power of suppliers and the power of customers? Are there any substitutes, and what's the extent of competitive rivalry? And then if it's looking at the external environment, we go through the Purcell model of political, economic, social, technological, ecological and legal. And to give a bit more information on that, there's a supplementary handout that you can read. And then finally, we look at key stakeholder expectations. So we need to understand our key stakeholders. These might be internal stakeholders, and we'd have to look at our organizational mission and our objectives, but we also have to look at a broader church of stakeholders. And this is, if the question is asking you in this area, where we would think about stakeholder mapping, and we look at power and interest and decide on appropriate action dependent on what those stakeholders want. So that's our analysis. So each of those kind of value chain, Purcell and stakeholder mapping are tools which we might use to help us in planning our applied answer. So if the question is not about analysis, it's falling into the area of choice. If we're looking at strategic choice, we first of all need to look at the basis on which we're competing. Are we competing by being the cheapest and therefore may be able to offer the lowest price, or are we choosing to differentiate ourselves? The models which would help structure a plan would be Porter's generic strategy, cost leadership, differentiation and focus, and Bowman's clock. Once maybe we've decided on our competition basis, we might then need to consider which direction are we going to go in. So do we stay in the same market with the same product, or do we stay in the same market with a new product? And various permutations of that are represented by Ansof's product market matrix. So just understand what that is saying, and then having decided what market, well, what basis we want to compete, what market or product we want to go into, we then need to think about how we're going to do it. And when we're thinking about how, you need to consider the advantages of internal organic growth. So it's obviously internally it's cheaper initially, less disruption to culture, whereas external growth would be much quicker, would be elimination of a rival, access to goodwill and technology, or we might consider a joint venture, which might be the requirement of a government because they might not allow monopolies, and we might be sharing things. So analysis, choice, and then finally we look at implementation. Things to consider on implementation would be structure, and we think about centralization or decentralization. We think about functional, divisional and matrix. We'd consider project management issues. So under project management issues, just think about the things associated with project management, the project initiation document, a project sponsor, project manager, what roles do they have, things like post-implementation review and why we do it. So just have a good understanding of project management, because questions might be talking about when implementing what might we need to do, or might be specific to a project management issue. And then finally, we look at change management, which is often part of implementation. And when we're looking at change management, keeping it simple, I would think about unfreeze, change, refreeze. Unfreeze is about making sure people are open to change. Changing is about the processes we use to change. So think about participation, education and communication. And then refreezing is about keeping them that way. So we often have new procedures. Company handbooks are often used in organizational change to represent transition from old to new. Another representation of that transition would be a symbol, and a symbol might be a new logo, a new name, something like that. So that's it really. Very, very simply, what is the question asking? Is it asking about analysis? Is it asking about choice? And is it asking about implementation? I will support this quick presentation with some notes. Hopefully you found it useful, as with the other videos in this Back to Basics series, and happy to include you in a group on LinkedIn so I can send you quite a bit of free resource to help you in your studies. All the very best, and thank you very much for listening.